Putin bewildered. UK sends warships to Black Sea to break Russia's grain blockade. Update on Russia and Ukraine war May 25. The Royal Navy is planning to send warships to the Black Sea to protect ships carrying Ukrainian grain, according to reports. Ukraine's allies are keen to form an alliance ready to break the Russian blockade and establish a protective corridor from Odessa to the Bosporus. It comes amid growing fears it will take time to avert a world food crisis, with many countries, especially developing ones, struggling due to lack of supplies from Ukraine. Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis discussed the idea of the corridor with Foreign Minister Liz Truss. He said that the alliance could include several NATO countries along with countries that depend on grain from Ukraine would set up a fleet to enter the Black Sea to protect grain ships. It is believed that Egypt, which has been hit hard by the wheat shortage, may be willing to join. Mr. Landsbergis accused the Russians of taking the vulnerable countries of the world hostage by not allowing Ukraine to provide them with enough food. He added that alternatives, such as getting grain out by trains and trucks, would not be enough. And we need to send warships to action. We need to quickly break the Russian blockade in the Black Sea. He said countries can supply ships or aircraft built in the Black Sea and provide navigation for grain ships leaving the port of Odessa and reaching the Bosphorus in Turkey. Ms. Truss said the UK was working on an urgent solution to the food crisis. We in NATO need to send warships into the Black Sea to escort food ships from the Russian blockade. What we need to do is solve this global food security problem, and Britain is working on an urgent solution to get grain out of Ukraine, she said. A diplomatic source told The Times that the Secretary of State was in favor of sending warships to escort food ships leaving Odessa. Putin humiliating defeat when hundreds of Russian soldiers give up their weapons to run away. Update on Russia and Ukraine war May 24. Yesterday's humiliating scenes of the Russian army were recorded. The Russian army gave up its military equipment and deserted both when they were in battle and when they were not. The scene of military deserters, who gave up their military equipment, was captured on video. A video has surfaced on the website, showing deserters who have abandoned their military equipment without ever participating in battle. In the video, a group of soldiers can be seen hastily leaving the armored vehicle and running in the opposite direction of their original advance, while there is no visual sign of damage to the armored vehicle. Initially, one soldier exited the combat vehicle, and presumably to summon the rest, a group of soldiers quickly exited the armored vehicle and retreated in the opposite direction. According to some data, these events may have preceded the shelling. They were alerted and fled in fear before being attacked. It should be noted that this is not the first case when soldiers deserted. The Russian army is raising a desertion movement and refuses to fight, even shooting their comrades and commanders to escape, in recent days. Many other cases destroyed their own tanks or used tanks to run away. Many others also used tanks to stab their commanders and then run away. Putin must be losing control because the Russian military is creating a rebellion. Their fighting spirit is severely reduced, leading to many heavy defeats in Ukraine. The war. Putin is battered, as thousands of Russian stages rebel against the war at a concert in St. Petersburg. Update on Russia and Ukraine war April 24. The people of Russia were recorded shouting criticism of the war in Ukraine at a concert in St. Petersburg. Russians shout condemning the war in Ukraine during a concert in St. Petersburg. They spent the whole concert shouting and asking Putin to stop. Footage from the concert shows a crowd of thousands of Russians chanting K the war over and over. The defiant expression of opposition to Putin's special military operation shows that the Russian leader's propaganda machine on state television is failing. Russian authorities have managed to maintain strict censorship of war-related information, but protests against Putin aggression still erupt across the authoritarian country. The Russian state-controlled television station has covered the war extensively since the invasion of Ukraine began in February. This content is purely pro-war, as the Russian authorities attempt to use the media to spread fabricated claims to justify Russia's military intervention. Putin uses Russian media to fabricate false facts and deceive the Russian people. The Russian media claims that Putin's forces have invaded Ukraine in an attempt to free people trapped under the corrupt, fascist political regime. This is clearly not the case, as the democratic state of Ukraine has received broad international support from NATO in defending against Russian aggressors. Putin's actions to deceive the Russian people did not go as planned, when protests against the war and demanding Putin stop occurred continuously throughout Russia. The situation for us is obviously going to get worse, said Mikhail Kodaryanok, a Russian military journalist. The biggest problem with our military and political situation is that we are completely isolated geopolitically and the whole world is against us, even if we don't want to, he added. Admit it. Putin is a man who knows better than anyone, he is trying to hide his fear. Russia has failed to form any significant international alliances in the war, Kodaryanok said on television, warning that the Russian military's performance was declining. Russian authorities cracked down on anti-war protests when a significant number of protesters were arrested in mass protest against the war. Putin humiliated as his ally concedes Russia's defeat and praises Ukraine. Update on Russia and Ukraine war May 20th. Russian Senator Frank Klintsevich blames Russia's slow progress in Ukraine on Putin's leadership. Klintsevich admitted that the Ukrainian army is one of the best trained because its soldiers have the same mentality as the Russians. They know the Russian army well and they even fight better than the Russian army. Speaking on Russian state TV, Russian Senator Frank Klintsevich acknowledged the war in Ukraine is going on with some difficulty for Russia but claimed this is happening because of the Ukrainian military. This is different from the war we had in Afghanistan and in the Caucasus, he stated with aim intended to justify Russia's slow progress in the war. I spent more than 7 years fighting in a war. But this war, I hope my soldiers are not offended, is different from the war we had in Afghanistan and in the Caucasus. The TV presenter commented in support of the statements, of course. Of course. Klintsevich continued, because we are fighting one of the strongest and best trained armies. The Russian army may face defeat and have to withdraw its troops back home, if it does not change its offensive tactics in the near future. We are fighting against Russian soldiers and officers with the same mentality as us. And Mr. Putin is not really smart when using old offensive tactics to face his own army. Ukraine is no stranger to these Russian attacks, so they easily countered us with a smaller number of troops. The video was broadcast live on a Russian state-controlled TV channel and was posted on Twitter by BBC journalist Francis Skar. In the caption, Mr. Skar commented, Russian Senator Frank Klintsevich has an ingenious new reason for his country's slow progress in Ukraine. But at the same time, he is humiliating his leader about the uselessness of Putin. Mr. Putin will have to be extremely humiliated when he is denounced by his own allies. The retreat in Kiev and the subsequent humiliating defeat in the Donbass left Putin deeply bewildered, as his original goal was crushed. According to an assessment from the British Ministry of Defence, Russian forces have so far lost more than a third of their ground combat forces.